emergency alert. Something is happening in the silver market that isn't supposed to happen in a stable financial system, and it's unfolding right now. In just 47 days, 37.6 million ounces have vanished from COMEX vaults, an exit so violent the last time we saw anything even close was 1980, the year silver rocketed to $49 before the futures market nearly detonated. That kind of drain isn't a trend, it's a warning siren, and the shockwaves aren't contained to one exchange. On February 14, 2025, 4 major banks in South Korea didn't limit silver sales, they stopped selling entirely. No timeline, no explanation, just gone. Meanwhile, China has blocked citizens from buying physical precious metals. Russia is locked out of London trading floors. Every major pressure point is tightening at the same moment, but the most impossible signal, spot silver, is now trading above futures prices. That's backwardation, something that only appears when people are so desperate for physical metal today that they'll pay more than the cost of securing it in the future. It's not bullishness, it's panic buying in real time. If you think this is a story about price, it's not. This is the opening tremor of a market hitting structural failure. Stay with me until the end, because once you understand what this signal really means, you'll know exactly why the window for action is shrinking by the hour. What's happening right now isn't random. It follows a pattern older than modern finance, a pattern that has repeated every time a monetary system starts to fracture, and silver has traced this pattern 3 times before, each time creating generational winners and devastating everyone else. This pattern has only 4 stages, and we just stepped deep into stage 3. Stage 1 is establishment. A commodity becomes money. The world trusts it, and for decades the system looks unbreakable. Silver lived here for more than a century. It sat inside every USD coin until 1964. A dollar wasn't just a symbol, it was redeemable for actual metal. Stable, predictable, familiar, but stability always invites its opposite. Stage 2 is manipulation. Someone realizes there's more profit in paper claims than in real metal. So the system floods the market with promises contracts, ETFs, certificates. 1 real ounce suddenly supports 10 paper ounces, then 50, then 100. The illusion of infinite supply pushes prices down, and the world forgets that physical silver is finite. This stage lasted decades, and it worked, until demand woke up. Stage 3 is the squeeze, and this is where we are right now. People start asking for something simple: delivery. The vaults begin to drain. Paper claims pile up. Suddenly, the market realizes there aren't enough real ounces to cover the promises. That's when panic creeps in. That's when spot jumps above futures. That's when banks like the 4 major Korean institutions on February 14th, 2025, stop selling silver altogether because they can't source it. That's when China blocks citizens from buying precious metals because the state wants every ounce for itself. And that's when the world starts whispering the question no one wants to ask out loud. What happens when the metal runs out? But the final stage, that's where everything breaks. Stage 4 is the separation. The moment when paper and physical part ways forever. Futures freeze, delivery fails, trading halts, paper silver becomes a number on a screen, physical silver becomes a lifeline, and the gap between the two doesn't widen slowly, it detonates. If stage 3 feels chaotic, stage 4 is something else entirely. Because when the system can no longer deliver the metal it promised, price stops being relevant. Only possession matters. And if you think this sounds dramatic, wait until you see what history shows when stage 3 flips into stage 4, because that flip has already happened before. And it nearly broke the financial system. Want to see how close we are to that edge? Keep watching. Silver isn't just another commodity in the storm unfolding around us, and the reason stage 3 is hitting this hard is simple: silver plays a role no other material on earth can fill. It's money, and it's irreplaceable technology at the same time. That dual identity is why the pressure feels like it's tightening from every direction all at once. For more than a century, silver functioned as real money. It lived in USD coins until 1964. It anchored trust. It stabilized an entire monetary system. But today, the world depends on silver for something even more urgent: the machinery of modern life. Every piece of electronics you touch requires it. Every medical device that keeps people alive depends on it. Communication networks, satellites, automotive computer systems. Silver is the conductor, the backbone, the quiet engine behind everything. Solar panels devour it. EVs need more of it every year. Military systems consider it non-negotiable for guidance and high reliability components. Silver isn't symbolic, It's structural. And here's the part that should make you uneasy: the supply cannot keep up. The market recorded a 148.9 million ounce deficit in 2024, the fourth consecutive year of deep shortages. Mining output keeps slipping. Recycling can't fill the gap. Industrial demand keeps climbing. And investors, watching the monetary cracks widen, are rushing in at the exact moment industries are tightening their fists around physical supply. That's why this squeeze feels different, because it is. This isn't speculation driving the market, it's survival instinct. When factories realize silver might not be guaranteed, they don't hesitate. They secure metal months or years in advance. When governments understand the strategic risk, they stockpile quietly. And when investors see backwardation, vault drains, and banks halting sales, they move fast because they know what's coming next. Two worlds, the monetary world and the industrial world, are colliding over a metal that is disappearing. And if this pressure feels intense now, it's nothing compared to what happened the last time someone tried to accumulate massive amounts of physical silver. Their actions nearly tore global finance apart. Their story is the clearest preview of where this squeeze is heading. And once you see what they triggered, you'll understand why this isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. Ready, let's go deeper. The pressure building in today's silver market isn't theoretical. We've seen this movie before, only last time. It wasn't nations or industries driving the squeeze. It was two brothers, two men who pushed the system so hard that global finance almost snapped in half. And their story is the clearest warning of what happens when paper promises collide with the reality of physical metal. In the late 1970s, Nelson Bunker Hunt and William Herbert Hunt made a decision that terrified Wall Street. They didn't buy a little silver. They bought everything they could touch. 200 million ounces, half in physical bars, half in futures contracts. Their logic was simple: inflation was raging at 13%. The dollar was bleeding credibility. Nixon had closed the gold window in 1971. Fiat currency was dying, and silver was real money. And at first, the market agreed. Silver went from $6 in January 1979 to $10 to $30 by December, and then to $49.45 on January 17, 1980. A 724% explosion in 12 months. The Hunts weren't just rich, they were becoming the richest men in America. But what scared Wall Street, that wasn't the price. It was the fact that the Hunts were doing the one thing the system couldn't handle. They were demanding physical delivery. And every futures contract they controlled represented metal the exchange didn't actually have. COMEX panicked. Vaults were draining, the numbers didn't add up. So the exchange did the only thing it could. It changed the rules in the middle of the game. On January 7th, 1980, COMEX unleashed Silver Rule 7. No more new long positions. You could sell, you could hold, but you could not buy. The trap snapped shut, but the pressure kept building. Then came the kill shot. Massive margin hikes. Overnight, the Hunts needed hundreds of millions to maintain their positions. Panic hit the market. On Silver Thursday, March 27th, 1980, silver collapsed from $21 to $10.80 in a single day. The Hunts lost billions. Brokers wobbled, banks froze credit. The entire system shook. But here's the part: people forget everyone holding physical silver walked away just fine. And if that lesson was true in 1980, it's even truer today, because the power squeezing silver now isn't two billionaires. It's the whole world. And what's coming next makes 1980 look small. Ready to see why? What the Hunts exposed wasn't an isolated failure. It was a glimpse into a pattern that keeps repeating every time physical metal collides with a system built on paper promises. And if anyone thinks the 1980 silver crisis was a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly, history says otherwise. Because the same fracture lines appeared before. And they appeared again after. The first warning shot came in 1971 when President Nixon slammed shut the gold window. Foreign governments were demanding physical gold in exchange for their dollars. They wanted metal, not paper. But the United States didn't have enough gold to satisfy those claims. The vaults were bleeding. Confidence was unraveling. So Nixon chose the nuclear option and gold convertibility. Overnight, the dollar became fully fiat. The financial world was stunned, and what happened next was inevitable. Gold exploded from $35 to $850, while silver surged from $1.40 to nearly $49. Physical metals soared because the system could no longer pretend it had what it had promised. Paper broke, metal won, every time. The pattern repeated again in 2001, this time in the palladium market. Russia controlled most of the global supply. And then, without warning, shipments slowed, no explanations, no timelines, just silence. Suddenly, industrial buyers realized they were exposed. Automakers needed palladium to keep production alive. Futures traders assumed metal would be available until it wasn't. Prices detonated, rising 263% in 2 years. Paper contracts became traps, delivery failures spread, traders were crushed. But anyone holding physical palladium walked away in a position of strength. 2 different metals, 2 different decades. Same outcome. When physical supply tightens, paper markets don't bend, they snap. And that's the part most people still haven't grasped. Today's silver squeeze isn't building on theory. It's building on precedent. Real world collapses. Real shortages. Real moments when the financial system had to admit it was bluffing. And if palladium and gold showed us what happens when one sector panics, imagine what happens when the entire global economy needs silver at the exact moment investors start demanding it too. Because that collision isn't theoretical anymore. It's happening right now. And the numbers coming out of COMEX prove it. Ready to see how deep the squeeze has already gone? Silver's past already warned us what happens when a monetary system overstretches its promises, but the real shock is this: every structural condition for another breakdown is already in place today. Not forming, not emerging, finished, locked in. Stage 1 is long behind us. Silver functioned as money in the United States for 150 years. It anchored trust. It lived inside American coins until 1965, when silver was removed because its metal value exceeded its face value. That should have been the first alarm bell, but instead of admitting silver mattered, the system simply repurposed it. Stage 2 followed immediately, the moment silver stopped being currency. Wall Street rebuilt it into a paper market futures. ETFs, certificates, derivatives, layers upon layers of claims stacked on top of the same finite supply. 1 ounce backing 50, even 100 paper ounces. The ultimate illusion, the largest silver ETF, SLV, claims it holds 440 million ounces. But buried inside its own prospectus is the clause that exposes the whole game if physical silver isn't available. SLV can settle your position in cash. Not metal, not delivery, just a payout that acknowledges the system can't give you what you actually own. And that brings us to the core of the problem: COMEX. On paper, COMEX vaults report 265 million ounces. But only 43 million ounces are registered, the category that actually counts, because it's the metal available for delivery. 43 million ounces in a world where global demand consumes over 1 billion ounces a year. It's not a reserve, it's a warning. And every futures contract, every ETF share, every synthetic claim the market has created rests on that tiny sliver of deliverable metal. The system functions only if nobody asked for the real thing. But now investors are asking. Industries are asking. Entire countries are asking. The illusion that held for decades is thinning, and the numbers no longer protect the paper market from reality. And if these structural cracks already feel dangerous, the next part of the story shows what happens when the system starts bleeding metal faster than it can hide it, because that's exactly what's happening right now. Ready for stage 3 in real time. Stage 3 isn't looming anymore. It isn't theoretical. It isn't a warning for the future. It's happening right now, and the numbers pouring out of the market are the loudest alarms you will ever see. COMEX, normally a fortress of supply, has watched its registered inventory collapse from 80 million ounces to just 43 million ounces. That is nearly half of the deliverable silver disappearing in a matter of months. And then came the day that stunned even veteran traders: 6.13 million ounces withdrawn in a single session. Moves like that don't happen unless people are afraid the metal won't be there tomorrow. The panic is spreading across the globe. On February 14th, 2025, 4 major South Korean banks didn't slow down silver sales. They stopped selling silver entirely. No restart date, no explanation, just a full halt. When banks with deep international supply chains shut the door like that, it means they're hitting the same brick wall COMEX is hitting. There isn't enough physical silver to go around. China feels the pressure too. Regulators tightened restrictions, raised risk classifications on precious metals, and cut citizens off from buying through banks. They did this for one reason: the state wants to hoard every ounce it can secure. India moved in the opposite direction, but with the same effect by importing record-breaking amounts of silver, pulling even more metal off the global grid. When two of the world's biggest population centers start vacuuming up supply, the international market doesn't tighten, it chokes, and the industrial world is swallowing silver even faster. EVs require more silver than gasoline cars. Solar panels consume staggering volumes every year. 5G networks depend on silver. So do medical systems, missiles, high-end electronics. Nearly every technology defining modern civilization pulls from the same shrinking pool. None of this demand can slow down. It's structural, it's accelerating, it's inevitable, and now the market is flashing the rarest signal of all: backwardation. Spot silver has pushed above futures pricing. The only time that happens is when buyers no longer trust the promise of future delivery. They're willing to pay more for silver today because they fear they won't get it tomorrow. This is the heartbeat of stage 3. Once confidence in paper evaporates, everyone rushes for physical metal, and once that run begins, it doesn't unwind, it accelerates. Because where this path leads is stage 4, the point where the system no longer bends, it breaks. Stage 4 announces itself quietly, at first just a few fractures in the system, but in November 2025, the warning wasn't quiet at all. The CME halted trading, blaming a cooling failure, as if one of the most fortified financial infrastructures in the world suddenly forgot how to keep its servers cold. Traders weren't fooled. Everyone knows halts appear during violent moves when someone big is on the edge of collapse. And in the silver market, a halt only means two things: either the exchange changes the rules, or the market blows apart. Because stage 4 has no mercy. When it arrives, paper becomes irrelevant, contracts freeze, futures disconnect from reality, delivery fails, and the only thing that matters is what you can hold in your hand. Once stage 4 locks in, there is no price, there is only scarcity. There is only metal. And this is where the decision shifts back to the viewer. Not to COMEX, not to banks, to you. There are only two ways to interact with this market: speculating or owning. Speculation is playing paper futures, ETFs, derivative systems that work only when confidence holds. But ownership is different. Ownership is physical. Ownership is removing counterparty risk entirely. Ownership is stepping outside the game. And the rules for ownership are brutally simple. Avoid ETFs they can cash settle. Avoid futures they depend on delivery the system may not honor. What you want is recognizable physical silver, American Silver Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs, 100-ounce bars from trusted refiners, assets anyone can verify, anywhere, under any conditions, and you don't bet the house. You allocate intelligently, 10-20% of assets into physical metal, not to gamble, but to protect, enough to matter, not enough to destabilize your life. This isn't about chasing gains, it's about surviving system failure. Because here's the truth: no one in power will ever say out loud, silver cannot be printed, and every fiat currency in history has failed. Not most of them, all of them. The average lifespan is 27 years. The UTSA dollar has been fully fiat since 1971, 54 years and counting. The clock is not on our side, and the window is closing. So the question becomes simple: do you act while physical silver is still available, or do you wait for the moment when money can no longer buy what the system failed to protect? If this made sense, if you see the pattern forming right in front of you, then don't just watch. Subscribe. Stay with this series. The collapse of the silver paper market is only one symptom. In the next video, we go deeper into currencies, debt spirals, and the derivatives time bomb already ticking beneath the global system. Because the people who recognize the pattern early don't just survive, they get ahead. And the clock is still ticking.